Hey you guys, my name is Roberta Peel. Those of you who know me from Oregon Trail metal stamps. I made a barrette the other night and it just kind of had a lot of rave reviews, so this right here is one of them. See if you guys can see that. I'll try and zoom in a little bit. So this right here is one of them, and this right here, like, the design's okay, I like it, but it was the back that really caught a lot of people's attention. Everyone wanted to know how to do this, so I'm going to show you. And I'm not really one for small talk. So basically, you start off with your, it's about 3 inches long. I've got this right here at 1 inch. The other piece is only 3/4 inch. But this right here is 3 inches by 1 inch wide. You put whatever designs you want to on it. You don't have to add stones. You don't have to add embellishments. You don't have to do any of that. But if you want to, go right ahead. I'm sorry, I have a cold if you can't hear me very well. So you'll see that I've also made this right here just kind of a little bit of a curve. You know, it's kind of a standard barrette shape. So anyhow, to get that back on, it doesn't matter what you do on the front of it, just make sure, number one, you hallmark it because you want everybody to know it's yours, and number two, make sure it's got that little bit of a curve to it. Whatever shape that you want to, you can cut, like, stamp something on there or edge something on there and saw it out. It doesn't matter. Make sure there's no sharp lines that'll really grab your hair. And this right here, I've gone through and zipped it through with my Fordham and a coarse wheel, so there's nothing sharp on it. Same thing up here and down here. Don't worry about the serrated bezels. If you guys use serrated bezels, I'm sure it'll be fine. It shouldn't catch if you set it right. So anyhow, in order to be able to get that one piece on, and this is kind of more for intermediate silversmiths, or whatever smiths that you are, you can do this in copper as well. So this one right here is a 3.5mm tube, and it's a little bit harder to see, but right here, I've rubbed it on some sandpaper just to kind of flatten the bottom of it. Alright, now there is no specific size or shape or what have you. You just want to make sure that it's going to fit right on the inside and be able to give you a little bit of room, okay? Because that wire is going to be coming out once you get the wire fed through. The wire is going to come out and it's going to loop around, but it's going to need some space to do that. Alright, so there's the first piece that you need. This is 20 gauge, by the way, in case you're curious. I did this one on 20 gauge, the other one was done on 16. It'll still hold up just fine. So the other piece that you guys are going to want to make, this one is really easy to fabricate. This is just 20 gauge wire, or 20 gauge sheet. I just cut maybe a little less than 1/4 inch off from it. Make sure you take your Fordham or file, however you guys do it, to soften up the edges. Make sure that you get all the sharp edges off from it, especially right here on the inside. Alright, so once you get this thing formed, and this is going to be if your bracelets or if your hairpin is going to be 1 inch wide, then you want this right here to be about 3/4. In fact, 3/4 is about a good size no matter what. So anyhow, once you make this, you want to make sure that your wire is going to be able to fit in without really snagging it. It's okay for it to catch a little bit, but like right here, and I did this on purpose, yes, it's really hard to fit that in. Okay, you're not going to want that. Oh, by the way, this is 12 gauge wire. We're going to cover that in a second. So anyhow, you take some forming pliers, which these ones right here are just some really cheap ones, but they work, and you just make your adjustments as you need them. Make sure that it's not too loose. If it's too loose, you just kind of play with it until you get it set. You may have to fiddle with it a little bit more once you get it set, but it's really good to at least have it, or once you get it soldered on, but it's really good to at least have it mostly set to where you want it. So that feels pretty close. It's still a little bit tight now, but that's okay because we can adjust it once you get it on the bracelet. So the next thing that you're going to need, as you can see, this is 12 gauge wire. Alright, this is fine silver. I don't recommend using fine silver. It's really, really soft. But there is a way, no matter what kind of silver it is, to harden it. And we're going to show you that next. Okay? And I'm not showing my face today for obvious reasons. I look about the way that I sound. Alright, so you got your Fordham. And you'll notice right over here, I have a vise. Now, this vise, let's give it a little spin. So this vise right here, it's got a piece of rawhide, really good thick rawhide, and it's taped on using some painter's tape. I use this to carve my stamps. I use this to hold metal when I have to file something. I use it for everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure, oh yeah, length. Make sure that you've got enough to be able to go from one end, oops, from one end and across and back down. Okay, this is how I bake too. I don't measure anything. I throw things in, and if it tastes good, it tastes good. So anyways, and I guess I could measure that for you if I could find my ruler. Well, we'll call it about 7 inches or so. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is, if you have a drill instead of a Fordham, that's okay too. You want to put about 1/4 of an inch of your wire inside of it. And this is going to give the actual clasp part, it's going to give it its springiness, okay? Don't be afraid to tighten it down, because you're going to end up clipping part of it off anyways. We're going to stick the other end and tighten it down a lot, and then don't go fast, go slow. Make sure it's all tightened. Keep it as straight as you can while you're doing this. So if it bends a little bit, just straighten it back out. Keep it really, really straight and just go very slow. It doesn't take very much, because all you're doing is twisting that wire. And then every now and then you can stop and check it and see, oops, see how hard that it is. And that feels pretty springy. But I know for a fact that it's going to be harder on this end than it is on this end. So I'm going to take it out, switch it over, flip it around, and do it again. A little bit of a curve on that one. And about 1/4 of an inch is going to go inside your drill or your Fordham. It doesn't take very much. Just make sure it's got a good grip on it, and go slow. Slow is good. Alright, so we're going to put this end right here in now. Torque it down really good, and again, real slow. Or, you know, however fast that your Fordham decides it has to go. Okay, that feels pretty good. Now, I want you guys to be careful if you do it this way. For 2 reasons. Number 1, if you do go really, really fast and this thing flies out and it's soft wire and it whips around, you're going to lose an eye, or you're going to end up getting stabbed in the neck. And it's a hospital bill waiting to happen. Number 2, I want you to be careful not to get it too hard. See, now it's really good and hard, but it's not so hard that it's unbendable. Alright? You want to make sure that you can bend it to your shape, but that it's got springiness to it. Alright? Okay, so now for the fun part. We're going to get this stuff right here out of the way. Got your piece of wire, it's all hardened and ready to go. You want to make sure that your backs are as flush as you can get them, because they're going to end up needing 100% contact to the piece that you're soldering. And just to kind of give you an idea of how to do that with this right here, just going to rub it on a piece of sandpaper. Doesn't take a lot of force, but if you rub it on a piece of sandpaper, you can obviously tell on the other side of it where it's been a little bit more, and I think that we're okay. Just eyeball it, do the best that you can. Again, this is more for intermediates, so if you don't understand what I'm talking about, don't worry, I'm taking pictures and I'm happy to answer questions. So everything that's being rubbed on the side, on the sandpaper right now, when you can see where the marks are, that's what's going to make contact. Okay, that's why I'm adjusting it a little bit. I saved this last part for the video because it's really hard to describe when you're just doing pictures. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then my other component, and with the tubes, I don't know if you guys have seen these before, but this is called a tube cutting jig. It's so awesome. You just set your length from right here to where you cut with your saw, and then the tube goes in, wherever my tube is. Here you are. So tube goes in. If you've never used one of these before, you use your thumb to hold it down, and then you put it up against your bench pin and you saw the tube off, and you're pretty much good to go. There's a little bit of cleanup that's needed on the edges when you do this. So sometimes, oh, there you go. Rub it on a piece of sandpaper. Sandpaper is my friend. As a stamp maker, I use sandpaper for everything, and this is only 180 grit. And it's very well used. It's probably been used down to about a 240 by now. So you want to make sure that it's got its flat spot. Where did you go? It's obviously not flat enough. There you are. Alright, then you just give it a few rubs. That looks good, so that that's actually going to make contact with the inside. Alright, now for the fun part. Don't judge me too harshly. I melted my first bezel in like 5 or 6 years today. Alright, so first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to get this charcoal block off from here. I really like using this annealing pan. Not a lot of people do. Some people prefer to use this third hands or what have you. But not me. I really like using it because I can prop my stuff up. Oh, orientation. Okay, so you know that your hair clip is going to be facing this way, right? So imagine that you're actually putting it on. And what side are you actually going to clip on? Are you left-handed? Because if you're left-handed, then you're going to want your little curly Q sheet thing, you're going to want that to go on the left side. But I'm right-handed, and I know that I clip everything on the right side. Okay, same thing with necklaces, you guys. You always want to make sure that you put your clasps on the right side. Alright, I'm going to see if I can... Let's play this game. I got a new stand. I was hoping to be able to... There we go. And... in. I apologize. It's been a little while for me since I've had to record anything. Alright, so, it's always best if you pick solder, if you use actual solder and pick solder. I'm not. Everything else that I've done has been in hard, medium, and easy on this one. So this one right here is easy, or hard and medium, I'm sorry. So this right here is easy. Now with the paste solder, you want to be really, really careful. Okay, with paste solder, it has a tendency to spread. That's the difference between paste solder and regular solder. Paste solder is definitely going to spread. It's going to be much thinner when you use it. All right, regular solder, it's definitely much, much thicker. So now, as far as like where to put this on your piece, it really doesn't matter as long as it's even. But I have a lot of hair, so I want to get the most out of my barrette. So I'm going to put it just barely, there we go. I'm going to put it just barely at the end, okay? I have a lot of hair. Alright, next thing you want to do is fire up your torch. This is an acetylene air. You can do this probably with propane or MAC gas if you want. And it's not going to take a whole heck of a lot of heat. It's a second to smallest tip. They all have different sizes on them. This right here I believe says 1. Okay, and you'll see that it's going to kind of roll. And mostly I like to try and heat the sheet up a little bit, just on low heat. Crank it up a little bit. Oh, and the rest of this is actually fine silver. Kind of all I had on stock at the moment. Once that paste starts to really settle in, you're going to find that, watch for it to flow. But once that paste sets in, you're going to find that it'll roll right to the flat spot. And I'm trying to keep it as far up off. There we go. See, and it just set right down, rolled right where it needed to go. Okay. Give that a second to quit turning red. You don't want to touch your metal when it's pissed off at you. Check it out. Looks pretty solid to me. Give it a minute before you actually quench it. Before you quench anything, make sure it's not red. Make sure it's that nice dull gray if it's sterling. Fine silver's not really going to do very much. But give it a minute, because otherwise, well, shoot, I've seen metal crack. I've seen all kinds of ugly things happen. All right. There's the first part. It's on there pretty solid. I'm liking it. Now for the second part. same thing. We're going to flip it around, keeping in mind that the rest of this is hot. Now this time, instead of putting it as close to the end as I can get it, I want to leave room for the wire clasp to actually hook on. So I'm going to put this in a little bit more. That way, when the wire goes on, oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, so this way, when the wire comes through, it's got space on both ends because this is 12 gauge wire, so it's a little thicker. It's going to have a curve to it. So you want to make sure that the wire can come out, go in. It's going to kind of hook a little bit right here, and then you're going to want to get just a little bit of a curve at the ends. So you want to make sure that you've got room for that curved end. Get it in place where you want it to go. Oops. It's late. I've been up for a long time. Alright. Then you get to play with fire again. That's always my favorite part. And again, I start with the back plate. And I don't want to heat it up too much right there on this part, because I have a bezel, my second bezel for this piece. I don't even want to talk about it. But I have a bezel hooked on the back of it, and the wire underneath it's thinner, so you really have to be cautious when you're doing this if you have embellishments on the top. But if you're just stamping some beautiful designs on here, or you're etching and you just want to make this, I'm gonna show you how. And I have flowage. That's always so nice to see. Okay. I hit it a little bit more just because I'm a little paranoid. Okay. Now, that's the hard part. Again, make sure your metal is not pissed off at you before you quench it, or touch it, or do anything to it. Pop it in your water, pull it out, you can handle it again. There you go, that's the hard part. Now, when I keep telling you guys how easy that this is, I don't think that you understand how easy that this is. Okay? That's it. That's the brunt of it. Alright? This right here, that's it. And then you can make your own barrette. The tricky part is making sure that your wire is hardened enough. Okay? Now what you're going to want to do is I'm going to pickle it. So, if you can bear with me for a minute. Listen to some decent tunes for about 10 seconds. Because my pickle pot's on the other side of the room. And usually what I'll do is I'll polish it first, but I'll probably just put the wire on just to show you. Dead silence bothers me. Does it bother you? Come on, baby. Okay, you know what? It's good enough. Because I can always pull that wire back. There we go. Alright, so now once you have your piece pickled, it's a little bit cleaner than what it was. I'm slightly impatient at the moment, so I'm sure I'll have to pickle it again. But I kind of want to get down to the brass tacks of this and show you. So you don't leave your mandrels standing up. Alright, I'll show you guys how to do this part. So now what you're going to want to do is if you're... Oh, and always make sure, again, 3.5mm tube, this is 12 gauge wire, okay? So you want to feed it through, and you could be sophisticated, okay? You can be a perfectionist, nothing wrong with that, and you can measure this to where it's center and yada yada. I'm not going to do that because I've got extra wire on there. And I don't really care so much. Because I know I'm okay at eyeballing things. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is grab it, and what you're going to see, I hope, here, let's zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got this pretty well centered. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it right here, just a little bit on the outside from where I want it to, where I want the bend to be. And I'm going to start my first bend, 90 degrees, okay? This is so easy. Half of you guys are going to end up fast forwarding through half of it. Alright, see, this is why you wanted to grab it a little bit on the outside. You got to do the same thing on the other, oh, sorry. This is why you want to grab it a little bit on the outside. It needs to have wiggle room right here, okay? So you don't want it curving all the way up against the tube. Okay, you want it backed off a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'll grab her just right here on the outside. Can you see how much space that I have? Same thing. A little bit more than 90 degrees. See? Now the rest of it I'm sure you guys can figure out. You just form it. It's that easy. But the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure, that your wires are going to hook up in there. Because if it's too tight, then it's going to be a total pain. Okay, now what I'm going to do, just for a little bit of added something to it, and then what I'll do is I'll find a marker somewhere amidst my mess. Okay, I'm going to find a marker and just make a mark or measure it away from the ends, if you're the perfectionist type. And then I'll saw this off, but the real test is going to be, can you unclick it? And on this side it's a little bit tight. You can either pop it in and out a couple times and let it work itself out, which is okay. With this right here, it's going to be one at a time, but I can always curve these back a little bit and readjust it. So not really a big deal. Oh, or that's probably the problem. There we go. See? So you just kind of fiddle with your wires a little bit till you get them and the loops on the inside where you want them. Here's something fun for you. My 6-year-old daughter came home from school today at about 4:30, and I told her, I said, Katie, come here. She came over. Yes, Mommy. I said, what do you think of my new barrette? And she says, oh, I love it. It's so pretty. Her hair was down, and she's got some real fluffy hair. I said to her, well, honey, let's put this on and try it on you. Boy, you would not believe the excitement that came from that little 6-year-old Katie. So she put it on, and she wore it until about 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock tonight, and it did not budge. So all I'm doing right here is just adjusting my loops. There we go. That makes me happy. See how easy that this is? Not that hard. I keep telling you. And you don't have to add embellishments and fancy stuff to the front of it. You could just have a straight silver bar, no big deal. And this is 20 gauge. Alright, this is spring hard. We've spring hardened it. And I think you guys can do it. Have confidence in yourself, you guys. Just because something looks hard doesn't mean it is. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. I'm going to finish this one off. I'll probably just get this polished up, get these cut off where I want them to be, set my stone, and I'll take some pictures and show it to you and post it on the LMJ website. Probably go on YouTube as well as Oregon Trail metal stamps, which, by the way, here, I got to show you, feature this. See those beautiful leaves, my oaks and maples, and the nice little swirly gig. These are my floral stems. Those are available on my website, just saying, OregonTrailSilver.com. If you guys are interested. We had a 10% off deal till today. I'm just going to extend it. So you guys can have that 10% off through the weekend all the way up until Monday when I give you guys something new to be on sale. So, have a great weekend, you guys. Thank you for your patience. Take care. Bye.